Welcome to the Academic Leader Symposium at the Enactus World Cup 2021. I'm Dr. Kathy Cox, the Enactus Advisor for City University of Seattle. I presented here 3 years ago, and I'm excited Enactus has provided us a forum to share our academic research.
Hello, everyone. My name's Professor Gary Wood, and I'm Academic Director of the New Model Institute for Technology and Engineering in Hereford, United Kingdom. I'm delighted to be co-hosting today's symposium. This week marks the beginning of a year-long celebration of 20 years of Enactus World Cups, and I'm pleased that for the next 90 minutes, we'll be sharing your work as researchers in enterprise and entrepreneurship as part of that celebration.
There are so many sessions to look forward to at this year's Enactus World Cup. Don't miss the opening ceremony just 30 minutes after the close of this session. Starting this year, we celebrate Passion on Purpose as a pathway for Enactus students around the world.
For now, let's get started on the Academic Leader Symposium at the Enactus World Cup 2021. First to present for 10 minutes, followed by 4 minutes of Q&A in the symposium, is Dr. Jose Augusto Lacerdo Fernandez from the Federal University of Pará.
Hi there, everyone. In place of Dr. Jose Augusto Lacerda Fernandez, as he unfortunately had an accident recently and will be unable to participate. Our research was based on identifying the role of partnerships and how they influence and improve achieving a circular economy. And we did that by studying our own team. Our team is called Enactus UFPA, Enactus Federal University of Pará. We're a team that was formed in 2014, so we're a pretty young team. And we're based in the Amazon region. We run over seven projects since 2014. And since then, we've had over 300 students be members of our team, year in, year out. And our primary focus here is to build an ecosystem for social entrepreneurship in the Amazon. It's something that we really believe can help our rainforest. We're in the largest rainforest of the world, and we have an immense biodiversity, some of the world's largest river basins. And we really believe that social entrepreneurship is a key tool to improve development in our region. We conducted a study precisely to analyze how the different principles of circular economy were present in our team. So we identified that there are about 5 different principles of circular economy. So eco-design, reduction, reuse, recycling, reclassifying, and renovation. 6 principles, actually. And we then applied those different principles to analyze how our projects applied them, to see where we were lacking, which ones were stronger in different elements of circular economy. So a brief summary about what each principle of circular economy presents is eco-design is, like the name implies, it focuses on design and searching for solutions that avoid waste generation and avoiding creating products that don't have a properly closed cycle of reuse and rebuilding. The second principle, reduction, it bases on the goal to reduce the use of energy, of raw material and residue to make the entire process of production and consumption more efficient by introducing technology and introducing lighter products and more sustainable and more compact packaging. The third principle of reuse means that products or components that aren't waste need to be reused so that for the same purpose for which they were designed. And then we go on to recycling, which basically means using the waste from a previous product in new products and new substances, be it for the same use or for different purposes. And then we also have reclassification, in which we reclassify materials such as metals or plastics, and we reuse them at the end of their life cycle, at the end of their shelf life, and reuse them into reclassify them into other classifications. And finally, we have the principle of renewal, which basically focuses on using renewable energy as the main source of energy for circular economy to reduce dependency on fossil energy and improve adaptability. So based off of those different principles, we analyzed our different projects. The first project that we created is called Project Cyclica. Project Cyclica was a project that we designed to focus on the trash, the urban trash and urban sanitation in our city, which is a major problem in our city of Belém. And basically, we worked with different trash recycling cooperatives to train them, improve their management, help them expand their collection network, help them acquire new equipments, and basically improve their quality of life and their income. So we identified that in Cyclica, we were able to apply the principles of reuse, recycling, and reclassification. The next project that we identified is Project Fiero. Fiero was a project that we started implementing in a local market, an open free market in our city, where we would get the waste, the fruit that would be wasted, that would have gone to the trash, simply because they were ugly, they had imperfections on the exterior, but the interior was completely still healthy and still edible. And we would turn those fruits that would be discarded into new jellies and other products, other food products with higher aggregated value. And there we were able to identify the principles of reduction and reuse. And then we go on to 3 other projects called Manakatu, Costure, and Anama that all have multiple principles of circular economy being applied. So in Project Amanakatu, it's a project where eco-design comes to the fore, where the design of the product as a whole is key to the social and sustainable impact that it works to achieve. So Amanakatu, what does it focus on? It focuses on improving access to clean water in the Amazon. So the Amazon, like I mentioned before, it's the world's largest river basin, but despite all that, we have over 10 million people don't have access to clean water. So we created a system that reuses waste from the food industry that would be discarded and transform it into material for our systems, for our rainwater systems. They're plastic barrels of 240 liters that we're able to upcycle and reuse. So in Amanakatu, we were able to identify eco-design, reduction, renovation, and recycling. In Costurae, which is our next project that focuses on a sustainable fashion, we were able to identify also, again, the principles of eco-design, reuse, reduction, recycling, and reclassification by reusing waste from the fashion industry and transforming it into new products. Then in Project Anama, which is our next project, we were able to identify the principles of also eco-design, reduction, recycling, and reclassification. Anama is a project that also focuses on urban sanitation, but focusing on stopping plastic waste from reaching the rivers and reaching the ocean, and directly recycling that waste into new products. And finally, we have Project Girasol, which is a project that focuses on clean energy, on using clean energy to sustainably process food in the Amazon, especially foods that are consumed in the different communities in the Amazon. So by using solar energy, by using briquettes and biodigesters. And thus, Girasol, the goal is to stop our forests from being deforested and improve the sustainability of the different food chains in Brazil. So those are our main findings of how circular economy is present in our projects. And something that we always highlight is the importance of partnerships to achieve all those different applications of circular economy. So we were able to identify that we had many different partnerships, both in the public sector and private sector, over 67 partnerships over the past years in both the public sector, private sector, universities, NGOs, private professionals. And we were able to identify how each of those partners resulted in them bringing something to the table, bringing some element of circular economy to the table, both from uh, larger actors, larger players like Cargill and Ford Fund, partners of Enactus Brazil, who help support the different projects, and either through mentorship, through technical consulting, or by supplying certain by financing or supplying certain raw material for the different projects, help design these different projects that have circular economy. And something that we've noticed is that even though oftentimes we have the different projects that have that share the same partners, we're able to identify that there's something that unites them all. We need to cooperate to enable circular economy. So when we design the different projects, even the ones that have higher levels of technology, we were able to see that that technology, that innovation, either directly in technology or in the business model, was a direct result of the collaboration, the cooperation of those different partners. So, for example, in Project Costurae, our sustainable fashion project, we were only able to achieve circular economy in it because we were able to structure our sewing workshop in a local school. So there's one partnership with the public sector. We had to form a partnership with them to be able to build our sewing workshop. But in order to equip the sewing workshop, we needed another partner to come in, Ford Fund, to come in and help us with purchasing the sewing machines, for example. But then that's not enough. We also needed expert knowledge on how to design these sustainable products. So that's where local professionals come in, professionals from the fashion industry in our region to help us design all these different products. So it's a real network of relations that seem complex, but they have certain tendencies that connect them. So, for example, cooperation oftentimes it influences directly in innovation and generating these new products and generating these new technologies. And other times, it's a more indirect cooperation where they support the project as a whole, but they also help identify other partners or other collaborations that are vital to applying a circular economy in our team. So at the end of the day, something that we've noticed is that we really do need to study more on how these different partnerships between cross-sector partnerships between public sector, private sector, NGOs are able to improve circular economy in our projects, especially in Brazil, where we have large problems in achieving sustainability and achieving a circular economy. And something that we highlight is the role that Enactus Brazil and Enactus Network as a whole has in encouraging these different partnerships. So in Enactus Brazil, for example, we have training sessions on Enactus Training Center, where we have trainings that help the Enactus teams learn how to form healthy partnerships with other companies, with other teams, and help grow networks that help improve circular economy. So that's something that we like to end our presentation on that note. That together, if we're together, we will go further. And that's the end of our presentation. If anyone would like to reach out to us for further discussion or receive the paper in whole, you're welcome to. These are our contact details, Professor Jose Augusto's contact details there at the end. And thanks a ton.
Thank you, Noel. A really interesting presentation there. So we do have some time for questions and answers now. If any of our audience members today would like to ask questions, please do pop those into the chat and we can put those to our presenters for you. I'll kick us off though, Noel, if I may, by asking, it's clear that you've seen significant value in the partnerships that you've been able to develop here around the circular economy. And I guess that your students have too. do you have any data from the partner organizations themselves to sort of triangulate that and think about, what value have those other partners seen in working with you and your Enactus students?
That's a great question. Unfortunately, we do not yet have data on all the different partners. We have on some of them, but it's over 67 partners over the past 3-4 years. Some of them were partners for only short-term activities or short-term projects, and others were for longer term. So it would be a bit challenging for us to get data from all those different partners, but that's definitely something that we're interested in doing in a second phase of our research, because it would be really interesting to, exactly as you pointed out, to triangulate that relation to see whether it's really a win-win-win situation or how we can turn it into a win-win-win situation.
Sure.
So no, no, you were talking a lot about circular economy and circular design thinking. Did it follow any previous research findings on how you use that method? Thanks.
Yes, we had a previous paper that we published last year, which focused more on sustainability on a single project, on a Manakatu, which is currently our project that turned into a social business. So it's our team's only project that officially graduated as a social business. And there we focused a lot on how, also including on how the different partnerships involved in building a Manakatu helped make it a sustainable social business model. So, for example, in a Manakatu, I can highlight several different partners that were very, very key to designing that business. So we have the food industry, like I mentioned. Amonikatu is a project that reuses food industry waste. So we had a partner, a food industry company in our region as one of our partners, Maria's of Foods. But then our systems, our rainwater systems, are plastic. So we also needed other plastic materials, pipes and tubing and all that. So we had another partnership with Amankawavin, where they would supply raw material, the plastic pipes and other components for us to build our systems. And then we also included the organizations that helped finance this project. So Ford Fund comes to mind. They were a very key partner to helping provide this starting capital, to provide the initial funding for us to test our system, to make sure it works, and to help generate the first results, the first systems. And finally, also partnership with professors in our own university, so that we have the technical knowledge, the know-how on how to design a sustainable product. And that was part of a paper that we published last year, focusing more on Amanakatu as a sustainable business model. So then we realized that, hey, our other projects also have circular economy principles in them. Why don't we start researching on how circular economy has helped our projects achieve higher levels of independence, higher levels of sustainability, and who knows, if we structure a complete process on exactly what are the steps involved to ensure that our new projects, any new products that we create from now on, already start with a circular economy in mind and having a sustainable model already from the start.
Thank you, Noel. Now to present Dr. Aha Bhatti and Munir Magri from the Universal Business School.
Hello, everyone. A warm welcome from India. And we're here to present analysis of environmental, social, and governance aspects in Universal Business School, Project Maharashtra, India. I have with me my colleague, Professor Munir Ahmed. Next, please. So to introduce ESG, ESG stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance, and it's also called sustainability in many cases. Now, presently, there are more than 3,000 institutions, investors, and service providers that have agreed to the principles of responsible investment, and that shows how important it is. Next, please. So the ESG principles stand for environment, governance, and social. So for governments, we have executive pay, vibrant corruption, diversity, fair tax and strategy, social care of diversity, health and safety, local communities, working conditions, whereas the environment takes care of deforestation, resource depletion, greenhouse gas emission, and climate change. Next, please. So here's how you decode ESG, environment, social, and governance. Energy consumption, pollution control, etc. And social takes care of human rights, child and possible health, safety, governance, the quality of management, independence of the board, and diversity. Next, please. Why do companies need ESG? Because it catalysts in capturing opportunities and it attracts investors' interest and it potentially generates a lot of business and financial outperformance. It helps you manage risk by staying ahead of the vulnerability curve. Next, please. So we went through a lot of literature on ESG. To quote a few, the investor community particularly sees ESG as important. ESG issues are increasingly seen as integral to an investor portfolio. That's what Richard says in 2000. Next, please. So, from all that we went through, we identified a few graphs, and the literature, most of it talks in of finance and corporate sectors, and it links it to financial performance of the company. And business schools and other institutions that play a very important role in building human resource for the companies that have been missing in ESG research. Now, taking this into context, the studies was devised and it aims at examining the ESG of people in India. Next, please. The objectives of the study is to calculate the environmental and governance aspects of the Universal Business School, to assess the environmental related initiatives, to assess social related initiatives, governance, and to assess the performance of related SDGs. Next, please. The theoretical background, there's from all the theory that we studied, we came across a theoretical model that of got in 2001 was suggested that the institutional environment comprises of three types of institutions: regulatory, normative, and the cognitive. Now, give an example of all the introduction of legislature that taxes carbon emissions as regulatory is likely to create an understanding and a shared body of knowledge among business about climate change, which is cognitive, as well as a set of beliefs and values related to sustainable development, that is normative. So the methodology that was used was a questionnaire survey that was conducted with the head of the infrastructure development, director research, head of the operations management, CSR, head resources, like the annual reports, media bulletins, newsletters were taken into consideration. The global reporting initiative was used for reporting of various indicators under social governance and environmental aspects. Next, please. Next, please. So the case of a universal business school was taken. The school is located in the foothills of Karjat, which is in Maharashtra, and is established as a part of Stripe India Foundation, Education Foundation. Now, this has taken the Universal Business School has taken a leap forward by creating India's first green business school and ensuring eco-smart, integrated thinking and a sustainable campus. It has programs, full-time and part-time graduate and postgraduate programs in management education, and has global presence in terms of Cardiff Metropolitan University, partnership with Swiss School of Management, etc. Next, please. So if you see these photographs, they are self-explanatory. UBS in 2008, this was a barren land, and now you see full of greenery. Next, please. So the climate aspects looked at building natural capital in terms of renewable energy, 70% of the total energy comes from our solar park and rooftop systems. There's habitat, 16 acres of green zone habitat, with areas for antenna. There's a green campus, water harvesting, 3 dedicated water harvesting, and there's clean energy. Next, please. Tree plantations, and we call it a green business school, and we stand by what and we have planted almost 7,500 different plant species. Now, innovations in tree plantations, we've done what is termed as agroforestry system. The approach that has been adopted at UBS, it amalgamates forestry species, horticulture, and agriculture crops together. Clean energy, as I said, we have a solar rooftop system, and 3,000 kilowatts of the total energy is produced by the solar establishment. Next, please. Water harvesting, we have 3 dedicated rainwater harvesting in 2 acres of land. Next, please. So, reuse and recycle is the mantra. The leftover food wastage valorized for biogas preparation, and the food leftovers distributed, and we reduced 80% of our food wastage over the years. Innovation in water, we have installed hydroponics, drip irrigation, and sprinklers. Next, please. In terms of social aspect, social capital, this EPS is surrounded by tribals. So we have 50 local tribal women who work. Next, please. So, and during this, we took care of all these local people. We provided them food, and the whole housekeeping staff, which are all again tribals, paid the full salary. Next, please. We partnered with Enactus, and through this initiative, we provide a project that is called Ikshana, provided free art classes to more than 500 people. Local children have been educated in health and hygiene. Next, please. Governance mantra, we have 50-50 ratio of faculty members, equal representation. Next, please. Next, please. So this is how we have taken up. We've taken into consideration all the SDGs, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 10, 9, 12, and 13. Now, all the greens, we say we are top performers in that, and we still have some areas where we need to improve. Next, please. So these are the references and the literature that we looked at for our presentation. Next, please. That's it. Thank you so much.
So thank you for your presentation. So we have a few questions coming in. Please, if you do have any more questions, please put them in your chat so we can get them answered by our presenters. So first question, you were talking about your ESG mantra. What kind of outcomes using the mantra did you feel that your Enactus team could use from what your findings were?
Mr. Munir, would you want to go? Do you want to take that one? You're on mute. Mr. Munir.
Yeah. So, ma'am, we have used GRI indicators to calculate our governance, environmental, and social aspects. So, this has given us what we are presently where we are, and we have put up a framework where we are lagging, and what should our team do in next 1 year or so to put up the achievements on each of the SDG indicators that we have highlighted at the end.
Thank you. Can I ask? I mean, I noted in your presentation in your slides that you mentioned that your Enactus students have been involved in some training for local children. I wonder if you can say a bit more about how your students were involved in actually shaping your ESG policy for the business school.
Yeah, so our students from MBA and BBA, they are part of different projects. We have involved them in different projects. For example, PANA is one of our social development project. Ikshana is one of our social development project. We have involved them. We have trained them. They are going to the field. They are having the consultations with the tribal people, those who are living around our campus, UBS campus. So we are giving them trainings to go out, learn, get the data from them, and then we sit with them and try to see how we can benefit the local people, the tribal people. Uh, and this is how we are giving them this ESG training and putting this into the context in our sustainability report.
Thank you. So, what have you noticed any differences with your students working on these projects or even using your ESG model?
Yes, ma'am. UBS has experiential learning mantra. We involve our students in different ESG activities so that they have classroom trainings also. They have practical demonstrations, hands-on trainings also. So there has been a lot of difference from classrooms as well as the practical experience to our students.
Thank you. I mean, that's interesting. Do you think that, I mean, have you seen any changes in the profile of students who are choosing to apply to want to study with you? Because I mean, I think that we're seeing that students today are kind of really tuned in to the sustainability agenda. And I wonder if you're seeing that you know, your ability to promote yourself in this sustainable way is actually influencing student choice.
Absolutely. See, the corporate houses are looking for the sustainability managers, and we don't have availability of sustainability managers. In UBS, we are trying to imbibe that culture into the students that, okay, you're having the management knowledge, you should also have the sustainability knowledge. So we are pushing them into this ESG aspect. So there has been a lot of change. We do regular exercise, interact with the students, how they are coming up with this ESG and sustainable development goals. We have also some courses imbibed in our curriculum that are on sustainability and SDGs to make them prepare for the future, make them sustainability leaders as well as the managers.
Thank you, Dr. Batia and Professor Munir. Next, the third
Thank you
presentation
so much.
by Aurora Garcia Mate and Isabel Monserrat Odelo Hernandez from the Instituto Tecnológico Superior de Salapatha.
Hello, and thank you for listening to my presentation. And thank you to Enactus for letting me be part of this event. My name is Aurora Garcia, and today I will present Tlamatini, International Markets, Local Impact, a social business model for the empowerment of Mexican rural and indigenous women. This project is an initiative that I have built with my student Isabel Monserrat, and that has the intention to empower rural and indigenous Mexican women, as is said in the title. The research that we carried out had mainly the objective to validate Tlamatini as a social business model and ensure it meets its end goal of empowering Mexican rural and indigenous women economically, reaching international markets and nostalgic markets in North America through an online store where added value artisanal products made by these women are available by analyzing secondary data. So we haven't actually reached the point where we are making our own market research. We have mainly focused on looking at what already is studied and what already is there and known about this issue. And then we are going to take this information and carry out our primary data. So we're still in the initial stages of our research, and therefore our methodology has been more focused on secondary data, both from a theoretical perspective as well as from a statistical viewpoint. We took into consideration two main topics of interest: inequality and the market. And the inequality research focused mainly in the case of Mexican rural and indigenous women, looking at their sources of inequality, which range from economic, gender, ethnic, and cultural. And the market research consisted mainly in analyzing the secondary data related to nostalgic markets, with particular focus in North America as the starting point, although we believe that this can expand to other areas of the world. With the information found, we were able to construct an initial proposal for a social business model that we have named Tlamatini, which will continue to validate our ideas, and we will see if it's a valid business model by researching this primary data. So what did we find when we looked into the gender inequality in Mexico? Well, generally we found that the indigenous population is more prone to be in poverty. We also found that the percentage of indigenous population that carries out unpaid domestic labor in terms of being women from 19 to 59 is also bigger in the indigenous population than in the general population. We found that young people that do not work or study are 91% women. Of those 91% women, 72% carry out unpaid domestic labor. We also find that when looking into access to higher education, 88% of men have access to higher education, while only 69% of women. And of those women who have higher education, 20% are still carrying out unpaid domestic labor. This is 80 times more than men and 89 times more when we are focusing on small towns, which is where these indigenous or rural women are found. Relating to gender violence, we find that there are more women in urban areas who are prone to receive a violence experience throughout their life by any type of aggressor, which we found interesting because according to what we believed, we would think that most women who are suffering from this violence are also located in rural or indigenous populations. However, we found that it is actually a smaller percentage. It's only 23%. However, we might think that this could be because they are not really used to reporting this data. So maybe the violence is still very much there, but we just don't know it because there's no reports. We also found that there are many women who are victims of violence, a lot more than women who are free from violence. And at least 6 out of 10 Mexican women have faced an incident of violence at some point of their life, so quite a high number. And finally, while looking at this situation of gender inequality, we found that the distribution of women aged 15 and over who experienced violence by their current or last partner throughout their relationship is very, very high. It's over 19 million women, and half of these women don't tell anyone. The other half mainly tell their family, but there's very little information about how many of them would actually go through a legal process to ensure that the person who committed the act of violence is legally punished. Now, when we look at the nostalgic market size, we looked at the number of Mexican people abroad, and we found that, of course, the largest market of nostalgic people would be the United States, which has over 11 million Mexican citizens living there. And we find that the second largest market is Canada, with 150,000 Mexican people living there. And we find an interesting trend, which is that the Mexican population in Europe is growing. So we have over 100,000 Mexican people living in Europe. We believe, as do other authors, that the market for so-called nostalgia and ethnic products opens an opportunity. It is an incentive for producing and exporting goods that are being lost at home. And therefore, we find that there are 4 main characteristics to the nostalgic market. One of them is the identity part of it. Ethnic and nostalgic products are part of the Mexican identification. The second characteristic is lifestyle. Some ethnic and nostalgic products allow migrants to carry out their lifestyle. we also see that there is more than one consumer. There are Mexicans, Mexican Americans, Hispanics, and even the nationals of each of the countries that we have mentioned before could be a potential consumer of these products. We also believe that nostalgic markets allow for us to avoid cultural loss. As artisans are slowly disappearing, nostalgic markets can give them a new life. We have also seen that the demand for ethnic and nostalgic products expenses in the US ranges to almost $1,000 a year. This is very old data. Like I said, a lot of this needs to be updated. And we also found that the best way for the artisans to distribute their products in an international market is through networks. Artisans that create networks do better, and ethnic stores in the US use these networks as their primary suppliers. So we believe that this is part of what we could use to construct a business model. So what is exactly our problem? That rural and indigenous women are subject to various forms of inequality and violence, be it income, gender, ethnic, or cultural. And our solution is to empower women economically through the support of the international distribution of artisanal products made by these women. So this is how Tlamatini was born. This social business model consists of an online artisanal product store aimed at nostalgic and foreign markets that will empower these women economically, on the one hand, and also we have a section for capacity building because we want these women to be educated enough to one day stop depending on our business model. We don't want them to be permanently part of Tlamatini. So the Tlamatini business model is based on six elements. It is an online store which will be managed by us, providing the international market access to indigenous women. We also find that one of our elements is economic empowerment because indigenous women will receive most of the profit. We also want to build entrepreneurial skills. It's one of our main goals. And this is part of the capacity building. So we can minimize the dependency on Tlamatini in the long term. We also want to empower them in terms of equality and rights so that they know what their rights are and they have the knowledge to fight back in case of that they are victims of violence or other types of inequality. We also believe in a culture of preservation. And while innovation is important, so of course we need to adapt to these new markets, we think that cultural preservation is even more so. And our final element is health, because of course we want our artisans to be healthy. So in conclusion, the initial research we conducted helped us to reach the following findings. Ethnic and nostalgic products are a niche in an international market. It is possible to empower women while they do what they already know how to do by taking the product elsewhere, and the Tlamatini business model is a solution aimed at this market that could potentially improve indigenous and rural women's lives. However, as mentioned before, many of the studies need to be updated and the market research is still to be carried out, although we believe that this could really work at this scale. We also find that it could potentially focus on 5 SDGs, which are shown here. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Aurora. Really interesting presentation there and tackling that a clearly important issue in terms of inequality and something that resonates, I'm sure, with lots of the students working in Enactus this year. Can I ask a little bit about how you designed the Tamatini model and what do you think are the kind of key innovations that it's offering that will help to really tackle and address these issues?
Idea a few years back, but I didn't actually do anything about it. I started to work in academia instead. But while working in academia, one of my students, Isabel Montserrat, told me she wanted to do something for rural and indigenous women. So I told her about this idea that I had quite a while ago, and she completely went crazy over it as well. So we started to work on it. She was actually the motivation to get it on its feet. and we started to do the research together. Once we did that, we started to think about the possibilities about it being an institutional thing. So we have also already talked with our gender office in our university, and we are planning to make this like a volunteer program for our students, our community. And we have thought that perhaps this is innovative because we see that perhaps, although there's already markets with the focus of nostalgic products, we perhaps it's more focused like on food or on other kinds of Mexican products. And we believe that the value that the artisanal products gives to other people and to our own uh, nationals that live elsewhere is the same or even bigger, and it will help them continue to connect with their original identity, which is to be Mexican.
Great, thank you. And a great reminder there, I think, of the power of staff and student collaborations. The fact that you've been able to build this in collaboration with your student, I think is really in the spirit of Enactus. So well done, thank you.
So another question, thank you so much for your presentation, very interesting. Have you been able to validate this business model at all yet with any outcomes?
We haven't yet. Like I said, we're in the initial stages, and honestly, we get a little busy with everything we have to do, but we are planning to make the contact with the women. We, like I said, we have been talking to our gender office in our university, and it's in charge of a girl named Janelli, and she's very willing to do this with us. So we're just kind of in that pre-stage when we are already going to go out and actually contact these women, because as we know, one thing is that we have this idea, and then the other is, will they really want to do this? Will they really benefit from this? So that's the next step.
Great, thanks. I wish you very good luck on that. Gary, do you have another question?
I think perhaps, we've not got a lot of time left. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about what you think the next steps are going to be. How will this look different in a year's time?
Well, I think the next step, like I was saying, is to actually go and contact these women. And then we will see if they are willing to work with us. And if they are, then we would start to build the online store and to reach out to the customers abroad. So I also have the fortune to have contacts in Canada, in the US, and in Sweden, who have now told me that this is something that they may be interested in. So we also think that they could potentially help us with the market research. So to ensure that also this is an accepted product in the United States or in Canada or in Sweden, and from there move on to actually making this work. And like I said, we are planning to work from volunteers who will be a part of our student community. So hopefully everything will go okay.
Brilliant. Thank you. I wish you every success as you move forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Aurora. I agree. I hope you do well. It's a great goal to be able to help these women. And now our next presenter, Abril Hjord Katzin Tamayo from the University of Quintana Roo.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Abril Katzin, and I'm going to present this work, which is in collaboration with Oscar Frausto Martinez, and the subject is citizen participation in public policies for local management of sustainable tourism. The new public management displaces the traditional model of bureaucracy expressed by the transition from vertical hierarchy and centralization to the development of flexible organizational systems in which actors are active participants in public policies. The decentralization that this model brought with it resignified the local sphere, and municipalities began to have a leading role due to the closeness between the governors and governed. And promoting heterogeneous practices. Sustainability and local management are currently promoted through transnational precepts such as Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030. These agendas have become relevant for policymakers to achieve sustainability and allowed social and private sectors to be included into the decision-making process. And from this, the following research questions arises. What sustainable development goals or SDGs promote public policies in Cozumel, Mexico, and which actors are the protagonists in promoting sustainable development? The essential elements that constitute the network are the stakeholder and the relationship between them. The stakeholders can be actors, individual groups, or organizations, and that can be represented by nodes, and the relationships are represented by links. This structure from the network define the limitations, opportunities, and relationship between the actors, and these stakeholders can have prestige or autonomy. Our unit of analysis are the minutes that are from meetings called by the municipalities to solve public issues. In these meetings, participants debate and reach agreements that are filled into minutes. The investigation is designed in two phases. In the first phase, we have the analysis of the minutes and the classification into categories and subcategories. These subcategories are related to the SDGs. In the second phase, we have the elaboration of the network map with UCNet and NetDraw software and the previous conclusions. 446 minutes were analyzed. These minutes are classified in 5 municipal periods. These periods are the duration of the mandate of the municipalities in Mexico, and the minutes can be ordinary or extraordinary. The extraordinary ones are minutes that deal with specific topics outside of the regular periods of the meetings. In total, we have 2,311 public actions. These public actions were classified into 6 agendas according to the municipalities law of the state of Quintana Roo. And in first place, we have the administrative agenda that deal with topics related to human resources, travel expenses, and organizations. And this agenda has 31% of the total of the public actions. In second place, we have the municipal services agenda that are responsibilities for the municipality, such as basic services like drinking water, waste treatment, or public safety. In third place, we have the municipal development agenda. This agenda is an extension, and this has topics related to urban, social, and economic development. In fourth place, we have the legal agenda that deal with license and permits, and the fifth place, we have the non-municipal agenda. These are topics that emerge from the initiative from the citizens, and they are sports, culture, or animal control. And in the last one is the political agenda that is related between relationships in different levels of government. And afterward, the stakeholders were classified into sectors. The first sector is the social sector, and we have 48 stakeholders, and they are represented by triangles. The private sector has 57 stakeholders, and they are represented by circles. And the public sector has 139 stakeholders, and they are represented through squares. In this first graph, we can see the input degree of the stakeholders that refers to the stakeholder who is the source of information. In this case, the biggest node is the most influential, and we have the stakeholder 7 from the social sector as the source of information. And in this second graph, we can see the output degree that refers to the stakeholder who receive information, and the biggest node is the most influential. In this case, we have the stakeholder 32 from the public sector. And in this graph, we can see the intermediation of centralization. And the intermediation of a stakeholder depends on the degree to which it is necessary to connect different nodes and facilitate the propagation of information within the network. In this case, the most essential node is the stakeholder 56 from the public sector. In this other graph, we can see the Bonasic beta centrality. This is an indicator that is based on the idea that the status of a stakeholder is in a function of a status of those with whom one is connected. In this case, the most influential nodes are the 56 stakeholder from the public sector and the stakeholder 3. In this graph, in this figure, we can see the SDGs most promoted. In first place, we have the SDG 11 related with sustainable cities. In second place, we have the SDG 16 related with peace and social justice. In third place, we have the SDG 17 related with the promotion of sustainable development. And in fourth place, we have the SDG 8 related with economic growth. And with the use NetDraw software, we can see this graph, and we can see the relationship between the SDGs and the stakeholders. And the most promoted are the 11, 17, 16, and 8. They are most promoted for the public sector. In second place, the private sector, and in third place, the social sector. And as a conclusion, we have that there is no equal participation and there is no equitable representation for the social sector and the private sector. And there is just one pillar of sustainability promoted the most that correspond to the economic field, because Cozumel is a tourist destination and tourism is the main economic activity. And here we got the reference, and that's all for me.
So thank you so much for your presentation. Very interesting, and loved all those graphs. Just how has your Enactus team or the students been able to apply the research that you did?
We can use these minutes for all municipalities, and we can analyze if these sectors are having an incidence, a real incidence into the management and in the formulation of the public policies. We can apply this using these meetings or arenas.
Thank you. Gary,
Thank
do
you.
you have a question?
Yeah, a close question to that one, actually. I think that one of the things I sometimes see is that Enactus students perhaps find that one of the difficult stages of starting an Enactus project is that needs analysis stage and really understanding what the needs are and then how they'll respond to that. And I wonder if you can say a bit more about how you might have supported your team through that stage of the process, because it seems you have a really good set of data here and you've clearly, really researched this well yourself. So how are you supporting your teams with the needs analysis that they need to do?
Well, first we have to realize a text analysis using different softwares, and we have to select uh, the actors who receive information and who are source of information. And we got the speech acts, and here this is the special factor to identify them, and then we can uh, use this software to realize the network, and the software is who help us to give these to obtain these indicators to have previous conclusions about the incidents of the sectors.
Thank you. Kathy, a final question from you?
Yeah, so just what did you find when you're looking at the SDG goals and which ones are more important? How do those SDG goals even maybe apply to what projects or what actions your Enactus team is making?
Well, these agendas have subcategories, and these subcategories were related to the SDGs. And the most promoted subcategory are related with plans and projects that includes the tourism economic activity. And I think that there's a little more easier if we have these subcategories according to the law, because the municipalities have these agendas estimated, pre-estimated.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
for the
Abril.
questions.
Now to present
Thank
Dr.
you.
Majid Al-Harb, Chairman of Enactus Morocco and Professor at the ECSA École de Management.
A chapter of a book that I wrote, for which I participated. Yeah, can you hear me? Yes, okay. I'm sorry because I'm in a farm and I have little access to my computer, so I'm using my iPhone. So basically, what I'm trying to present today is the work. I'm sorry. Okay, so what I'll be presenting today is a chapter of a book called Struggles and Successes in the Pursuit of Sustainable Development. That was published in 2019, and I would like to really talk about today about the one of the main issues, I would say, for Africa, for the continent, for Africa, the African continent, which is scaling the impact. How can we scale the impact? And in fact, Africa today is the last border of the economic growth. However, it does not create enough, I would call it enough wealth to meet the pressing social challenges that it is facing today. So achieving the SDGs will need trillions of dollars. That's a fact. So scaling would need finances, but most of it would need social entrepreneurs, social innovators. Uh, so we're talking human capital here. And the idea here is to talk about scaling in Morocco, but also in Africa, using three cases of three women-led social enterprise. The first one would be the case of Enactus Morocco, and two other will be two social enterprises that are spun off from our incubator. Trying to, okay. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry because I have an iPhone. I can barely see what are the. So I'm trying to just to guess what's in the slides. So basically, as an introduction, we're talking, and I already introduced the African continent, but basically we're going to talk about the role of social innovators and also see how I would call them. Sorry, I'm trying to open it at the same time on my computer, which does not work. So we're going to talk about the Enactus as a capacity building and supporting organization, and take the case of Morocco. I'm the chairman, as you said before. So it has been a field study basically that was able to help us move on. Okay, so sorry. Okay, so in the case of Morocco, it's so sorry. I'm switching from my slides and the slides that are very small. I'm sorry, I cannot even see them. Doesn't move back. Okay. So the main challenges in Morocco are social challenges and main challenges to the social transformation of Morocco. Morocco is an ambitious African country, however, it has harsh social and environmental issues. And this slide, I was trying to move back to it, is a slide that shows the challenges that are firstly challenges that are pertinent. No, I cannot go back, unfortunately. So youth, we have challenges with the youth. Basically, we have more than 55% that are under 25 years. 27% of employment is among graduates. And we do also have challenges in the human development, where our ranking in human development is 123 among 188 countries. Education is not very good in terms of ranking, also 119. Health is average, 81. And gender equality, very bad, 137. In terms of environmental issues, we do have pressure on resources, in urbanization, sanitation, and industrial pollution. So those are the main challenges. And if you count them, unfortunately, on the slide, they're like nine on 17. And most of the African countries have basically the same issues with youth, human development, and environment. Okay, so this is the slide I was talking about. The next slide would be to talk about the literature review. I'm not going to go into the details, but basically we did a work on the concept itself, but I mean, for the moment, I mean, it's not a major, I would call it a major findings, but basically we needed to all agree on what is social innovation in Africa. What do we mean by it? And what we can retain here is that innovation, a social innovation is social both by ends and means. And if you move from that, the main issue that we have is beyond the definition. There's an issue on linked to the social entrepreneurs. We cannot have social innovation without passionate social innovators, and social entrepreneurs. And this is the main challenge that we have at Enactus in general, but also at Enactus Morocco. We need to train the next generation, train them to think differently, and this is what we have. And this is a success in general for our mission at Enactus and Enactus Morocco, basically. So another thing is linked to the startup. One of the main problems is to understand that a startup goes through phases, the life cycle of a startup or a social startup goes through phases. If you want to scale it, you need to adapt and adjust what we call the finances to the life cycle. So basically, at Enactus, what we do very well is the first phases, like ideation, MVP, minimum valuable MVP products. And those are the things that our students know how to deal with. And the idea was to find the finances for those first and early stages. But the main thing for us in Africa is to scale. How can we really go into growth and into maturity? And this is where most of African countries are trying to deal with. They're trying to really find ways of scaling. And this is one way of doing it is what we did is to try, sorry, I'm going to move quickly to the next. Okay, so the idea is to see how we did with the Enactus. So we moved to basically, I'm sorry to go first. Okay, so our impact basically is we having like 5,000 to 6,000 a year of students. We train them. We are very good at giving them finances through a partnership with the I would call it with the government, but also with the corporate. And in Enactus itself, we went from a basic, I would call it basic sponsoring type of revenue model into a business model or revenue model that is based on services that we do give to the multinationals or to the companies in Morocco. And by doing so, what happened is we multiply by 10 our revenues. We went from revenues before 2013 that were around 100,000 to basically 1 million and more nowadays. So that's one type of the scaling was through the impact that we had, but also through the revenues. Some others, and I'm going to just stop here. Some of the case studies were two women led social enterprise in agribusiness, Hydrobarley, which is a social enterprise that solved the issue of water also access for livestock, access to fodder, and I'm sorry, yeah, stopped here. Okay, so the conclusion would be here to say that the main issue that we have in Africa is about an issue around scaling the impact. I think it's a worldwide issue, but in Africa we need to go fast and we need to have the finances, but also the human capital. The human capital, Enactus is doing very well. For the 10 countries that are the African countries. But what we need to do is really scale within other countries and try to find the right finances. And one of the best finances for this scaling is the impact investment. So I'm sorry, I couldn't move from my iPhone to the slides and I'm really sorry for that, but
Don't worry,
hope that
Majid.
you
I
got
think
the message.
we've all had technical problems while we're working online during the pandemic and the disruption. So don't worry. Thank you for your presentation, and I think we've heard some really good points from you there. I think one of the things that strikes me is that in your slides and in your presentation is the sense of working with other people, and of course, Enactus is very much about that, working in partnerships, and we've heard that today in other presentations as well. I wonder if you could maybe tell us a little bit about any challenges that you faced in doing that, and what do you think have been, the success factors for you in being able to work effectively with other organizations?
Well, first, the main thing that we did is to change our business model. We could not stay on charity and philanthropy type of model. We needed to see what are the needs of the government, what are the needs of the companies. Okay, you cannot ask them for money. There is enough competition on charity and philanthropy money. So Enact does not compete in this. But where we were able to find our niche is to give the right services to the government and also to the multinational and enterprises. What we did is work on the porter concept. Is basically how we can create a shared value. So the idea is how can companies, they have issue with the CSR, they have issue with impacting the people, the communities in which they work. So the idea was to be able to give them solutions to impact and have a strong impact on the so that was not philanthropy, that was a service, because it's a win-win situation. The same thing for the government. We were able, because the government has a pressure from the youth to find jobs, and the idea is to say, let's work on something. And basically the government had been working with us, and we were able to really gather a lot of money just through programs, regional programs, where we were able to go and meet the communities, meet the young, meet the women. Also, we had also programs with women, etc. Sorry to time is
No,
running.
not at all. Thank you. Very interesting. Kathy, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Majid. And now our final presentation and Q&A by Romain Pouzou and Dr. Jan Rihak from the Technological de Monterrey.
Hi, guys. It's such a pleasure being here with you today. And Roman and myself are happy to present on this global scale a little bit of our experience on developing entrepreneurial and social entrepreneurial competencies in our students. And we decided to choose the case of Global Entrepreneurship Summer School, where many of our Enactus students participate as active members, and then later on participate in the global community that we've created through these summer schools, and provide you a little bit with the best practices and our knowledge that we were able to create over the past years, and and show you a little bit what is it all about.
Thank you very much, Jan. Good morning to everyone. Good morning to all the enactors that are watching us. Let me tell you a little bit of an introduction about Tecnológico de Monterrey and what we are aiming at when it comes to entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship. Well, first of all, at Tecnológico de Monterrey, we look on entrepreneurial competency development from a conscious perspective. So basically, our entire educational model revolves around competencies development. On the past 4 years already, we have been working in changing every single process of our teaching methodology toward competency development. And we constantly look for novel ways to engage students in the entrepreneurial process while helping them create innovative solutions for the most urgent social problems. And we see entrepreneurship as a transversal competency. So we have some disciplinary competencies like negotiation, sales, and so on. But when it comes to entrepreneurship and innovation and conscious entrepreneurship, this must be transversal. This applies to every single bachelor you can study at Tecnológico de Monterrey. So through the Global Entrepreneurship Summer School, or GUESS, we combine multiculturality and immersion to reach competency development through conscious innovation.
And what is it based on theoretically? So you can see there's many theoretical approaches proved by research, from holistic approach through experiential learning that we apply. And basically all of you entrepreneurship educators know about the Kolb learning cycle. But what really worked for us very well is this challenge-based and project-based approach that combines defining challenges and combines working on projects in an intensive, immersed period of time, which in this case would be the summer school, and also this kind of competency-based focus, which means prior to developing the programs, it is very clear for us that, as Roman stated, to have the competencies outlined. What are we trying to achieve? What are we trying to develop with the students? And even more, we're like this kind of dilemma between what are we trying to develop? Are we trying to develop people, or are we trying to develop projects? And this is a little bit where our success maybe lies in these projects.
And now let me tell you a little bit more about GUESS by itself. Well, it was created in 2008 from the Technological University of Munich, and it is a tool to develop social entrepreneurship skills through an immersive and multicultural experience. So what's important about GUESS is that in a non-COVID time, it normally takes place in 4 different venues. So in Cape Town, in South Africa, with LifeCo United, in Munich with the Technological University of Munich, in Shanghai with University of Tongji, and finally in Querétaro with Tecnológico de Monterrey. And each venue receives 35 participants. And all the applicants must be students, either undergrad or postgrad students, it doesn't matter. So we have teams of people, freshmen together with PhD students, which makes it amazing. And we have 140 students per cohort every year, so 35 per venue. For the past 2 years, and due to the COVID situation we are living, GUESS has been converted into a digital platform. So we had 2 cohorts, one for the past 2 years, of 50 students worldwide. And what's quite important and interesting is that it is extremely multicultural. For the experiences that we had in Querétaro, for example, we had between 17 to 20 different nationalities in a group of 35 students. And the summer school lasts for 7 days, and participants must work in teams to solve a pre-established issue through entrepreneurship. So in 2018, it was food consumption, in 2019, water, 2020, energy, and for the last event of GUESS, which was last month actually, we had a circular system. And let me move slide. It didn't work. Just give me a second. Maybe you could help me out moving on to the next slide. For some reason, my clicker isn't working. There we go. Thank you. Okay, so the experience of GUESS in Mexico is designed around 2 main axes: the development of social entrepreneurship project and community creation. So this explains the whole curricula of the event. So the event lasts for 7 days. It's quite an intensive boot camp. During the morning, from 5 to 6 hours, they have input sessions with experts technological expert, entrepreneurial expert, but also a lot of time with their mentors. Mentors play a key role in the guest experience. And the afternoon is more team binding activities, multicultural and visiting activities. So we brought them to wrestling match in Mexico, visiting wineries around there. And so again, it's a combination between really intensive work in social entrepreneurship plus multicultural and community binding activities. As Jan was saying, what we are looking at when we look at guests, it's not an incubator of entrepreneurial project, because there are plenty of incubators of social entrepreneurship. What we are looking at is an incubator of persons, an incubator of entrepreneurs, people that carry on with entrepreneurship and impact entrepreneurship in the future.
Which brings us to the results. Basically, let me try if it works. Fantastic. So basically, what are our main learnings here, right? We were trying to figure out what works within these experiences, and what we've learned is that this kind of full engagement of the participants with the mentors, with the environment, really helps boost these social entrepreneurial competencies. Where we see it is through one, very positive feedback, people that are still active in the community of guests globally, years after they've participated, and as mentors, as jury, as volunteers in the later events. Secondly, the impact it had on our participants in Enactus, right? So these students that were able to participate in these immersive activities then come back and give back to the community of Enactus nationally in the Tec de Monterrey system. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, 80% of the participants are still working on social enterprises after 2 years, even 2 years after participating in GUESS. They're not working on the projects that they were developing in GUESS. This is very interesting, right? These projects died, they're over, but they developed these interesting social entrepreneurship competencies to go on and to use these competencies in new teams, in new projects, and maintain their status as social entrepreneurs. So maybe it makes sense in terms of conclusions to say what we've learned at Tec de Monterrey through working with Enactus, through working with other different activities that we have in the portfolio of activities and immersive activities for our students to develop social competencies, is that this engagement and full engagement really works, that mentoring really works, and that we are really able to kind of create these social entrepreneurs through these immersive activities. And where's the opportunity? The opportunity lies in being conscious on how you design these different activities within the realm of creating these competencies. Roman?
Thank you, Jan. And yes, indeed, we always say that entrepreneurship is a half-time job, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we have to understand that entrepreneurship is immersive, and we have to create experiences of entrepreneurship that combines life, fun, cultural activities, team binding with the content to make it more lifelike. And this is it for our presentation. Thank you very much. And to all the enactors out there that are listening to us, well, first of all, thank you for the invitation, and please keep on changing the world.
Absolutely. And those of you who were presenting in Mexico, get in touch. There were like other 2 presenters from Mexico. So it's very nice to see that.
Thank you so much, Roman and Jan. I hope you change the world. I think at least you're making some steps there. It's the summer school sounded like a great experience. So I've got a question. So I know you were talking about, the design thinking versus experiential learning. So what do you feel it's more important on the kinds of skills, and which ones would that be that made the students more social entrepreneurs, or was it just the doing?
Okay, maybe I'll start, Roman, with this one.
Sure.
So on one hand, definitely the design thinking background is there, and it's very important to follow a clear process, right? On the other hand, providing students with time to reflect, with time to assimilate the information, and to have this kind of constant feedback from mentors on this journey that they have. And it's really useful for them to develop the competencies and to develop these skills. And lastly, maybe borrowing from the framework of conscious entrepreneurship and conscious capitalism, the purpose that is on in the background, right? That really provides students with this motivation to go through with the process.
Indeed, and adding to that, well, we believe that perfection is an enemy of operation. So we need to look for the right time to stop actually developing the idea and to try it outside. So experiential learning must go hand in hand with design thinking and all the methodology that we use.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I follow up on that with a question about the kind of teaching input that happens during your summer schools? I'm interested to know a bit more about how you actually teach the students the kind of principles of lean startup and design thinking. And perhaps as a related question also to understand a bit more about how you might have changed that during the pandemic, and whether anything that you did during the pandemic actually you think you'd want to retain at the other side when it becomes possible to just go back to what was normal before.
Sure, if you want, I will take this one. Yeah, one of the first things that we changed was the duration of the input session. So normally an input session will go from 1 hour to 1 hour and a half. We moved it to 30 minutes, no more. So we have 30 minutes as an instructor to give the necessary knowledge for the teams to start working on them. And then it is teamwork, it is mentoring, and for the instructor to move from one team to another and provide direct feedback and direct mentoring again to the team. So this was actually quite an interesting learning. We understood through that this one-on-one interaction and the shorter time period of content made it actually much more efficient, because we give more time to the student to actually understand the knowledge and to apply it. So this will be definitely one thing that we will stick with in the post-pandemic world, where we'll be able to come back to presential teaching.
Absolutely. Excellent. And you can see that there's this application of the Kolb learning cycle very visible in this creating the input and having the students have the time to reflect on it.
Sure.
Yeah, so thank you. Hey, you mentioned a lot about your international students. Did you notice anything where they end up learning from each other and with the different cultures and the diversity?
Well, maybe I'll take this one, Roman, and you'll wrap it up. So firstly, you can see that at Tec de Monterrey, we have kind of an international, both faculty and students. You can see that from already the two of us presenting, we're not Mexicans, right? But this impact on the student learning from the international perspective, the fact that the whole guest experience is designed in such a way that there are different countries represented and different cultures really provides different perspectives for the students, and they understand what does it mean social entrepreneurship in Mexico, in the States, in Europe, in Africa, in Asia. And maybe interestingly enough, maybe even in the pandemic time when the guest was made as global was quite interesting. I don't know, Roman, if you'd like to reflect on that.
Yeah, sure. Actually, we have this room, this dedicated space for multicultural activities, that we call global time. So these are moments where we only speak about culture through dynamics and so on. So we create the space, we make a small dynamic, but who makes the magic are actually the participant, because they're already eager actually to know about the others and to share about their very own culture. So this is a kind of space in our agenda where we just set it up, then we move backward and we let the magic happen, because it always happens and it's always fun to the participant.
Thank you so much for sharing your work. So starting today and throughout this year, right up to Enactus World Cup 2022, we are celebrating 20 years of Enactus World Cup. Join us for the opening ceremony just minutes away, and please feel free to invite fellow faculty members and new students to join this year's Enactus World Cup. Passion on Purpose by registering at enactus.org World Cup. Have a great day and evening. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, and do enjoy the remainder of your Enactus World Cup experience.